Our fourth session is titled Our Culture, Our Competitive Advantage. I would like to start by introducing my mentor and friend, Ala El-Hawagi. Ala serves as an organizational systems strategist, consultant, executive coach, and organizational development professional. He is the chairman of the board of Sterling International, headquartered in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and the former CEO of Innovative Group, headquartered in Pompano Beach, Florida. Hi, Ala, and thank you for joining me again today.
My pleasure, Dee. Thank you for having me.
As we continue with our series of organizational immunity, why don't we begin with you sharing with us what you mean by our culture, our competitive advantage?
Thank you. Before I answering this question, let me give our viewers who are joining us for the first time a very quick context. We started this series by focusing on the leadership, and we talked about how leaders lead through uncertainties. And there were some qualities, some styles, some requirements for leaders to keep an eye on while they are navigating those circumstances. Then we came to webinar 2 and we talked about how we can reinvent our business using the tool of the Canvas. And then on webinar number 3, we talked about the change management, which is how to go about applying what you need to apply and implement whatever you have in order to sustain your organization. Now we're getting into what, in my opinion, and the opinion of lots of researchers and organizational developers, to be the most competitive advantage for organizations today, which is the culture. So we're going to be talking about organizational culture today. I'm going to try to answer the question of how to build a culture, and more importantly, how to sustain that culture. There's no doubt that having a healthy, a strong, high performance culture is the way to go. In fact, it is not a subjective matter anymore. It's an objective and a strategic one. The question we always ask ourselves, if this is the case, and it's been proven by organizations who are doing it, it's been proven by researchers that have been looking at this for decades, why is it rare? Why we don't see more role model organizations that are culture-based, or as we call them, value-based organizations? Well, the reality of this is, or the quickest and simplest answer is, the word as a buzzword in the corporate world has lost most of its meaning because people talk about things but not necessarily apply those things. The second component here is culture is very dependent on the people operating, working, interacting, reacting to each other in that culture. And the fact is, when you get enough of us in the room and ask us to work together, problems will arise. What that means is managing those relationships, understanding the norms of the organizations and how to direct that in a calculated, business-like way is really what can get us to where we need to go with this. So in spite of all the talk about it, in spite of discussions about the topic, unfortunately, it's still a rarity in most organizations.
Okay, so there's some key points that I understand that you want to discuss with us.
Okay, well, in order to, there is a wonderful model that I'm going to share with our viewers today. But before I discuss this model, there are some key elements that we need to keep in the back of our minds. First of all, the foundation of having this to work is communication. So the foundation is communicate, communicate, communicate. In fact, I go as far as saying you need to develop a communication campaign. Use whatever social media you have. Use roll-ups, use posters, use segments in your staff meetings in order for you to be able to send the message very strongly and clearly. And here's the key: consistently. Here's the second point, or knowing that communication is the foundation. Here are the 5 points, in my opinion, that people need to keep in mind as they are attempting one to develop or to improve or to sustain whatever they improved when it comes to culture. Number one is develop the rich diversity of relationships. This is really a big piece. And it goes like this. Can we work together? Yes and no, and why? Do we have the right information at the right time, delivered the right way, so we can use it to deliver what we need? Number three, do I have the psychological safety to express myself openly and candidly at any given point? This is very critical, because if we are building a culture that is not open to receive feedback from people, well, guess what? Then it's going to be just a framework on a piece of paper. The second thing that I want people to keep an eye on is the idea of assumptions. Okay, assumptions become a mental model. When you assume something about anyone, that becomes your mental model. That becomes the way you see that person, the way you see that situation. And guess what? Mental model becomes your behaviors, and your behaviors become your outcomes and whatever you're going to do towards that person. So be very careful with assumptions. In fact, you really need to be focusing on, before you get into the assumptions, get into a dialogue, get into a conversation with the person, so you can clear up anything in your mind about the situation, about the people involved in that situation. I talked about this before, and I can't emphasize it enough. Every leader, every one of us, requires to have some sort of a board, some committee, a group of people. I used to call it support system. Now I'm calling it a board that you can go to, that you can consult with, that you can take their opinion on issues. People who believe in you, people who will be always there for you, people who will help you own your actions and see why accountability is very critical, people who will help you raise your awareness about issues, people who will institute the idea of rewarding achievements rather than time, and finally, people who are dedicated to share their knowledge, skills, and abilities to make you a better person. The fourth point would be share information. Increase information flow as the primary organizing force in the organization. People do much better when they get the information they need. And finally, building an effective culture, and I mentioned that before, it is not something that I will get to whenever I have time. So it is a strategic act. It needs to be part of the business plan for the organization. Each organization, we talked about that D before. As you're building your dashboard or new dashboard, you must put in that dashboard some sort of a meter to measure where your culture is and how is it doing.
Something I would like to bring up here also is the point about sharing information. Assumptions are probably the most toxic thing when you're trying to develop the culture, and how to eliminate those is by continuing to share information consistently and within a way that is going to be consistent across all channels and with all levels of the organization, because assumptions are also contagious. And if it starts with one, it just starts to run, and that's going to derail all your efforts. So I think it's really critical that what you're sharing here about making sure that we do have the right people who are developing the communication plan and making sure it's being executed correctly and effectively, so that they're also paying attention to when they do have to modify that plan. Just because they developed it and it looks great doesn't mean it's still effective. It has to be evaluated like everything else, any other process. But the assumptions are where you've got to be careful. And that's, people that are having to work at a distance, that's where assumptions can really come in, because they're not seeing these people, and the worst becomes the assumption. So you have to have regular communications and meetings and open dialogue for these people. It's important. Okay. I really like the visual aids you used in the last two webinars. so viewers can have a representation of what we're talking about, as well as it being a tool to begin their own reflection of the topics we're covering. What have you developed for us to help with understanding how to establish a high-performing culture?
Okay, again, I'm going to make the same disclaimer that I make every time, Dee, which is this is a framework. This is a framework that a base that everybody can start from, but it is consolidating a lot of information. So use it, customize it, add to it, eliminate from it as you see fit. In this case, it's a complete framework and a model that I'm going to share with you. One of the things I mentioned in our previous webinars, as you already know, I never share things that we haven't used. So anything we talk about in our webinars or I talk about in our workshops are things that already been done. They've been done in our organization, they've been done with our clients, and they yield some fantastic results. So here we go. So let us put this up so we can share it with our viewers. All right. So I call this our culture, our competitive advantage, because indeed it is our competitive advantage once we build that healthy culture. So there's a lot of information, a lot of graphs, so people don't get lost. I will walk you through this. Let's start with the rectangular on the top, the gray one. It says bottom-up approach to achieve success. And these are three key points that the entire model is hinged on. Results pyramid model illustrates that the results we are getting in our organizations are achieved as a product of the actions people take. So whatever actions people take in any given organization create those results. Okay, they can be key performance indicators, they can be part of your business plan, whatever the case might be. Now, the actions people take are motivated by their own beliefs, by their own values, guided by the way they see the world, their mental models, okay? And those beliefs are created by their own experiences in life. So whatever you have gone through, professionally or personally, impact your mental model, impact your values, which is your beliefs, which impact your actions, and your actions impact the results. So let's go clockwise, by looking at the four white background boxes. So we'll begin here in the middle by talking about a definition of a culture. So let's begin by a definition of a culture, which is the small square on the top between the two color triangle. And it says that culture is the way people, employees, think and act. So we create norms in the organization. Some of these norms are documented, and those are the rules of the organization. Maybe delineated in clear and employee handbook, maybe in some sort of a memo. But there are unwritten norms, which are the traditions, okay? For example, one of the norms we have in corporate America is Friday is a dress down day. So people kind of know that when it comes Friday, they come a little bit more casual, dress code wise, to the workplace. That may not be written anywhere, but people know it. It is a norm that when you go to a meeting with a client to have a tie and a suit or a formal dress, that's a norm. It may not be written anywhere, but people know it. Now, the second white background box to the right of everyone, it says that experiences foster beliefs, and beliefs or values influence the way we act, and actions produce the result. So this is, in a way, is a much faster interpretation of that gray box on the top. Then we come to the small square in the middle at the bottom, which it says bottom up. When we look at the model, you're going to notice as we go bottom up, it's going to be much faster, it's going to be much more efficient, and more importantly, it's going to be something that can be sustained. Lastly, on the left-hand side, again, the white background rectangular, it says, in order for us to change the results, let's say that the results you receive in any organization is not what you are looking for, whether it's performance, whether it's culture-based, whatever the case might be. What do you need to do? Effective leaders need to create new experiences. Because remember, the experiences created those results. So we need to create those new experiences. Now you look in the picture in the model in the middle, which says experiences get to results, results get to actions, and actions get, experiences get to beliefs, beliefs get to actions, and actions get to results. So in order for us to get different results, we need to start thinking about creating new experiences. Those new experiences is going to start generating and reinforcing the desired culture beliefs. How do you envision your culture to be? What kind of values? Is honesty a good value for your organization? Is teamwork is an important value for your organization? How about integrity? How about